I would like to end, even if a lot of you will know, and Patricia mentioned the eulogy and the verses. But all the time we hear those words, we hear them different. And this is the mystery of all deep verses, and especially mantrams, that they need a kind of a preparation of the soul. And now we had 50 minutes or 60 minutes about Edith Maryon, and it's only a very, very small fragment of her life. But I think we can now get also an impression for this kind of impression for these words, for these eulogy words, memorial words of Dr. Steiner. I have two quite interesting, quite good English translation here. And of course, I have also the German ones. And I think I would like to start, if you don't mind, with the German. I'm not at all German. I mean, I'm German, yes, I've born there, but I have no ideas in my mind that German is in any way prior in the world. It is, I should serve the world. But concerning the German language, Dr. Steiner said to George Adams in London, his English translator, you know, George Adams' English will be the world language of the future. Everybody will speak English. It will be the exoteric language of the world. But we should preserve German because it has to do with an esoteric language. So no power, no outer power. And it's always very difficult if Germany is getting outer power, but inmost. So Steiner and his link to the esoteric German language. So I would like to start with the German and then end with one of the English translations, or maybe also with both of them if we have enough time. So forgive me, first German, but it's only first because I want to end English. So, Edith Maryon. Wer da blickt auf deinen Karma-Weg, den Freudearmen, der schauet dein edles Geistesstreben, das Seelenwarme. Ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Wirkenssinn aus deinem Erdenwandel. Wer da fühlt dein so stilles Sein, das Liebevolle, der schauet deiner Seele Mühen, das nie Ermüdende. Ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Herzenssinn aus deinem Tagesleben. Wer da stand vor deinem Todestore, dem allzu nahen, der schauet den harten Schmerzensweg, den sanft ertragenen. Ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Duldersinn von deinem Krankenlager. Wer empfindet dein schönes Geisteswerk, das ernst geführte, der schauet dein Leben hingegeben dem Geistesziele. Ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Opferkraft aus deinem Seelenringen. Wer da schauet in den Geistessphären, den segensvollen, dein Seelenleben künftig weben, das Licht erstrahlende, ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Geisteskraft aus deinem Ewigsein. Wer da schauet aus den Sonnenhöhen, den Liebenswarmen, deinen Blick zu uns herniederstrahlen, den Hilfespendenden, ihm erscheinet eines Menschenwesens Segenskraft aus deinem Geistes Wirken. Looking at the road your karma took, with few pleasures, one sees How noble was your striving in warmth of soul. The feeling for a human being's task shines out from your time on earth. Sensing the quietness in you, full of love, one sees your soul's endeavors, never tiring. The feeling of a truly human heart shines out from the life of your days. Standing before the gate of your death, only too near, one sees the road of harsh pain, endured so gently. A feeling for a human being's endurance shines out from your bed of sickness. Having a feeling for the solemn beauty of your work in mind and spirit, one sees your life given up to the goal in spirit. A human being's power of sacrifice shines out from the struggle of your soul. Seeing how in spheres of spirit, with all their blessings, your soul's life, future creating, lives in radiance of light. The power of a human spirit shines out from your eternal being. Seeing how from heights of sun in warmth of love, your eyes shine down on us, coming to our aid. The power grace in a human being shines out from the work of your spirit. So thank you very much insofar. I will end here, and if there is a need for the other translation, we can have it at the end of the questions, but I think this should be now ending of my my little contribution. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Peter. Feels as you read that, you can almost describe the sculpture they created together. Feels qualities of the sculpture, all those human gestures. Wow. So we have a little bit of time, 10 to 15 minutes or so, for some questions, and you can write them in the chat and I can relay them. There were some questions asked during the conversation, which first off was about her health in the beginning of this first time when she became 42. Was Steiner participating in her healing in that, or was she sort of just carrying on her own back in England?
Yeah, as far as I know, he gave an advice from the distance to the Dr. Falkin. So as you all know, Dr. Steiner never treated a patient, but in collaboration with a doctor. And there was the Dr. Falkin, this Rosicrucian doctor, but Steiner gave an advice. So he was part of this treatment from the distance. At this time, there were no real anthroposophical doctors in London, but at least Dr. Falkin part of this esoteric group. Yeah. More I can't say, and in fact, we have not a lot of documents about this time of her, but little hints. Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see what we can learn. Yeah, it feels a very powerful image, this in this Christ biography, the suffering of the lungs and the bleeding of the lungs in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what's coming present for me as well, just in how you characterize this mood of the hill 100 years ago, just how much it feels there's a recapitulation of mood across the planet as well in this time. And as we make this effort to stand in again, as it was spoken, all these social challenges for the anthroposophical society, it just comes as this feeling of the arts really leading for a new time. But yeah, just how this community can show up in a new way 100 years later, as the mood is, I don't know if it's more suppressed, but there is an urgency of the moment. I don't know if that speaks to you or something you could say about this mood and the task now.
Yes, Frank, this speaks very much to me insofar that I believe that history never recapitulates itself. But in fact, the rhythm of 3 times the Christ rhythm, this 100 years is, I think we all feel it, that it's the past is incredibly close to us, and the challenges, the unsolved challenges of the past are incredibly close to us. And in a certain way, we are living on this existential level again. And I think there is a huge effort needed to understand deeper what happened in the last years of Rudolf Steiner. And from my point of view, I would say from the general anthroposophical section point, we will really go into the next years into the mystery of the years coming to the Christmas conference. And I'm quite sure we need this power, we need these inspirations, we need this concentration, that we overcome what is the threat and the challenge today. So it's not the same story, but of course a lot of motifs come back. But now we have a real chance, I would say, because we have the history in mind, and also the tragic history of our anthroposophical society in mind. But it's not only a burden. It is, for me, it's more a gift. I mean, a gift in so far that we don't have to recapitulate all mistakes. I mean, they all did it before, and it is a wounded society. It is really a society hurted, and a society with a tragic element, but we know it. And now we have really internationally, I would say, big chances to go on the next step, and that you undertake this evening for Edith Maryon in collecting money for a translation. I mean, that you meet people all around, even if we are only maybe 130 tonight, but then it will be seen by others. So this network building, this personal existential encounter, these streams of love, I would say, and consciousness, I would say from this tiny little story we heard tonight, there is so much in it. And if we bring it out and make it to a social impulse, first in our society, and then from the society in the world, I would say we can really be very grateful that that we have this past, to know about it and to transform it into the future. But it needs a fully awakeness. I mean, it's not a sleeping time for us at the moment, but I think a lot of wonderful people are there all around the globe for anthroposophy. We have not only defamation, we have also just the opposite. So I always think that we need history, insofar that we need St. John, insofar that we need this kind of historical consciousness to be aware of. This is leading to spirit's awareness and seeing the future. So, and insofar, really also my gratitude for such an evening that you organized it, because it helps us, I think, to confront the future. by the bridge to the past. Yeah, I see a lot of things coming back in a different way, but I see most important, I see the chances for the future, to be honest. Yeah. But this is just a personal element. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I think we need this existential approach to anthroposophy. We need this devotion of Edith Maryon on a new level. Maybe it sounds in her case a little bit too selfless, but we should not forget she was a worker all the time. So she was very practical. It was not all devotion, it was practical devotion. And I think in so far, for me, it's an archetype at what Steiner needs as a co-worker in our days too. Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah.
Yes, and in that intimacy between the medical and the artistic and the social, also in the eurythmy work, Patricia has a question of was she working on the figures while she was ill?
I think that she didn't work anymore on the figures when she was ill. Maybe there was a better period in the illness. It was in summer 23. She was a little bit better. Maybe then she could go a little bit more again, but she started the work with the figures before. And with this work for the figures, she wanted to get money for the Goethe Annum as well. And it was in her more active time. I don't know if she continued in the little better phases of the disease, but it started before. Yeah, it started before. It's a wonderful link to Mary Steiner's work, and I said she was a friend of Elisabeth Frede too, and then got a friend of Ita Wegmann, late but a good friend. And in so far she's, and as you mentioned, Frank, the social capacity, for me, this was general anthroposophical section, partly, to be honest. I mean, with a special relationship to the arts, but she was in a certain way integrating a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll expend a little more time and just give some room. 2 questions before we open up the space for others to speak freely. Well, actually, I don't know, because I'll have to unmute them, so we can't actually do that. Wondering about correlation of these times with ancient Egypt, and also, was there a name for the illness with which she died specifically?
The Egypt question is, of course, going very, very deep, and I don't want to shorten it. I mean, the whole question between Egypt and the epoch of Egypt and our time, and interesting that she's on the way to Egypt. She stopped and went back and realized where is the new epoch in a certain way, not going back to the roots, but there are many relationships in between the Egyptian epoch and I think the forthcoming epoch. I mean, the disease why she died, I mean, tuberculosis, I mean, but what is tuberculosis, you can ask. This is another interesting question. Steiner gave very deep explanations about tuberculosis. And I just wanted to mention one fact. And for me, it was important to understand Kafka's disease. I mean, many people died of tuberculosis after the First World War, as you know. It was prominent, more prominent than COVID in our time, I would say. But anyway, some of these individuals who died of tuberculosis were specifically of interest, I would say. And Kafka, for me, was a prominent figure. And Steiner once said to the young doctors that tuberculosis in our time has to do, affects quite often people who have a high moral integrity, but can't really incarnate it in the outer circumstances, because the outer circumstances are not allowing this level of holy soul to live in a certain way. They were kind of rejected in themselves, in their organism, and then destroying themselves. So in a certain way, brought back to themselves. It's interesting that he said to Edith Maryon from the beginning on that she would not being able to fulfill her full occult potential in practical life, and she did not understand. But I would say, if there would have been another post-war story of Middle Europe, not this story of hate, aggressivity, civil war, radicalization, I can see her living longer. I mean, not only the fire, because the fire was kind of a symptom of this hate element. And I always feel that this person needed another surrounding to live. And so far for me, she's also a victim of the time, not only a victim of the destruction and the fire. But yeah, what is tuberculosis? But maybe this as little hints. It's a long story with Egypt and also with this kind of disease and the esoteric aspects of our diseases. But maybe this as a hint, yes, if you accept. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if we could, it was asked if you could read the, maybe to close this section, the atomic verse again.
The atomic verse, okay, good. Just have to find it.
We want to hear the second English translation too, Frank.
Oh, okay. So all of that, please.
All of them. If it's not getting too much. Okay. Good. But then chronologically, first the atomic verse, and then the eulogy again. I can't remember who did the translation, to be honest. I just found it on my old papers, so I'm getting old and forget where are the papers from. So good. So 26th of December 1922, so 5 days before the first Goethe-Anum was burned down, when man invented a world endlessly bursting apart into atoms, his powers of insight were caught up in the death of nature. Let him now seek to find in the spirit the power to overcome atomization, and his search for knowledge will turn to the world's becoming. In German, but only the second part, the positive one. Soll nun streben, in dem Geist zu finden, was Zerstiebtes überwindet. Und wird sein Erkennen richten nach dem Werden der Welt. And to close this section, and also from deep gratitude from my side for you all being here, this second English version of Steiner's farewell words. And in the book, when it's really published in English, you will also find his manuscript, because he was working on these words and changed them and so on. It was not at all easy for him, this kind of eulogy, this kind of standing there and speaking on the graveyard. It was not easy for Dr. Steiner. Whoever looks upon your karmic path, so poor in joy, they behold your noble spirit striving, the soul warm. To them appears a human being's effective purpose from out your earthly journey. Whoever feels your so quiet being, so full of love, they behold your soul's efforts, the never tiring. To them appears a human being's heart's purpose from out your living. Whoever stands before your gate of death, so much too near, they see the harsh path of pain, the gently borne. To them appears a human being's suffering's purpose from your bed of sickness. Whoever senses your beauteous spirit work, so earnestly directed, they behold your life devoted to the spirit goal. To them appears a human being's power of sacrifice from out your soul's struggle. Whoever beholds in the spirit sphere so full of blessing, your soul life in future weaving, the light radiating, to them appears a human being's spirit power from out your eternal being. Whoever beholds from out the sun hates, so loving warm, your gaze upon us